It's Thursday, June 13th, 2019. The Golden State Warriors walk off the court in defeat, losing in Game 6 of the NBA Finals to the Toronto Raptors. It was a valiant effort by the injured Warriors, but sadly, they came up short in Game 6, being eliminated from Finals contention. This was their 5th year straight attending the NBA Finals, so they'll obviously be back, right? Well, their future was very uncertain. Kevin Durant tore his Achilles earlier in the season, which will most likely sideline him for the remainder of next season. Klay Thompson tore his ACL in Game 6, and he also will most likely miss the following season. Also, rumors of hostility within the organization, including players like Kevin Durant and Draymond Green, were happening. Even if Kevin Durant was healthy, it's not clear that he would stay a Warrior. Could this be the fall of one of the biggest dynasties in NBA history? This video will show how the Warriors were able to revive this one dying dynasty. Early into the 2019 offseason, the Warriors were already dealing with departures. On July 7th, the Warriors officially traded Kevin Durant to the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for Treveon Graham, Shabazz Napier, and most knowingly D'Angelo Russell. Even though he was dealing with injury, DeMarcus Cousins was another major departure, who the Warriors lost in free agency when he signed with the Los Angeles Lakers on July 6th. In the last major departure, Andre Iguodala on July 7th was traded to the Memphis Grizzlies in exchange for Julian Washburn. So the Warriors lost arguably their best player in their past couple of finals runs. A star center who didn't really prove himself on the Warriors, but if given more time, could have made them unstoppable. And the most experienced veteran on their team, 2015 Finals MVP Andre Iguodala. The Warriors still had Curry, Klay, and Draymond. However, as mentioned earlier, Klay would miss the entire next season. So could Curry and Draymond carry the load along with D'Angelo Russell? There still was really high expectations for this Warriors team. They did have one of the best players in the NBA at that time, Stephen Curry. They still had Draymond Green, who was one of the best defensive players, along with being a perfect complement to a star player. And D'Angelo Russell was coming off of a pretty good season. Combine that with all of their experience, there's easily a chance that they can make another deep playoff run. The Warriors' starting five at the beginning of the 2019-20 NBA season consisted of Stephen Curry, D'Angelo Russell, Glenn Robinson, Draymond Green, and Marquise Chris. The season went off to the worst possible start it could have had. On just Game 4 of the season, October 30th against the Phoenix Suns, the Warriors would take the loss, but more importantly, Steph Curry broke his left hand in that game. This would pretty much sideline him for the remainder of the season. He was only able to play one of the final games of that season. In their first 20 games, the Warriors finished 5-20, which was their worst start since the 2000 season. This Warriors season was now in the hands of D'Angelo Russell, and you can't really blame D'Angelo Russell for this one, considering the lack of talent around him. Literally, his next options were Glenn Robinson, Alec Burks, Marquise Chris, and Eric Paschall. And it didn't help either that Draymond Green was inconsistent when he would play the entire season, only playing in 43 games. The Warriors losing would continue throughout the season, and on February 6th, they would trade away D'Angelo Russell and receive Andrew Wiggins and a 2021 first-round draft pick, which would later end up being Jonathan Kuminga, but we'll get to him later. Entering the All-Star break, the Warriors had a 12-43 record, but no Warriors players would be going to that All-Star game because they had no All-Star selections on their team. The Warriors played their final game of the season against the Clippers, losing to make themselves have a 15-50 record, finishing last in the league that season. Due to the pandemic, their season was shortened. They were one of the 8 teams that did not participate in the bubble because of their awful record. The season prior, the Warriors made it to the finals. This season, they finished in last place in the NBA. However, Warriors fans still had a lot to look for in the next season. Obviously, Klay Thompson would be returning as the Warriors' second best player. Curry would be returning. They have a really high draft pick because of their atrocious record. And they have some really solid pieces to support Curry, Klay, and Draymond, such as Marquise Chris. Kevon Looney should be playing more next season. Andrew Wiggins, and more. With the NBA draft lottery, the Warriors received the second overall selection. And with that pick, on November 18th, they selected James Wiseman, who was a center for Memphis. The Warriors were starting to reload their roster. Everything seemed to be improving for the Warriors until the very next day, on November 19th, it was revealed that Klay Thompson injured his right Achilles tendon in a pickup game and would once again miss the entirety of the following season. This took the air out of the Warriors organization as well as their fans, as they'd have to wait another full year, missing their second best player and one of the best shooters of all time. A couple days later, on November 22nd, the Warriors traded with OKC and received Kelly Oubre. They also added Kent Bazemore on December 1st for more depth. In the beginning of the season, the majority of the time the Warriors starting lineup was Stephen Curry, Kelly Oubre, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and James Wiseman. The start to the Warriors season was pretty solid. At the end of 20 games, they had a 12-10 record, usually splitting games as they went. Curry was playing at an MVP level, as this season he averaged 32 points per game, along with 6 assists and 6 rebounds per game. He received a lot of help from players such as Andrew Wiggins, Kelly Oubre, James Wiseman, and Jordan Poole. However, James Wiseman was battling injury through a lot of the season. He would have spans where he'd miss multiple games in a row. But the Warriors kept on their course of splitting games as they entered the All-Star break with a 19-18 record. Post All-Star break, surprise, surprise, they continued splitting games. They always were a near 500 team that was hovering playoff contention. They weren't going to be a high seed in the Western Conference, but with all the experience and talent they have on their team, and the coaching from Steve Kerr, who's obviously won many championships before, you could wonder if the Warriors sneak into the playoffs, could they make a deep run this season? Towards the end of the season, the Warriors' playoff hopes were dwindling as they had a 31-32 record, but after that they won 8 out of their last 9 games, ending the season on a 6-game winning streak to finish with a 39-33 record, which put them in the 8th seed of the Western Conference. Now, in a pre-2020 playoff format, the Warriors would have been in the playoffs, but now with the inclusion of the play-in tournament, they would have to beat out the other fringe teams for a spot. Luckily, they finished as one of the top 2 teams for the play-in tournament, so in order to qualify for the playoffs, they only had to win 1 out of the 2 play-in games. However, if they did lose 2 in a row, they would not enter the playoffs. The first game of the play-in tournament was against the 7-seed Lakers, the defending champs at the time. The Warriors started out the game with a dominant first half, however the Lakers came back, and it was a hard-battled fourth quarter. With only a minute left, LeBron James hit a clutch deep 3 to put the Lakers by 3, and the Warriors could not answer, losing them play-in game number 1. Like I said earlier, due to their higher seeding, they would have one more chance to win a game to enter them a spot into the playoffs, and this would be against the Memphis Grizzlies, who previously won their play-in game against the San Antonio Spurs. The winner of Warriors vs Grizzlies would make it as the 8th seed in the playoffs, and the loser would be forced to watch the playoffs from their couches. Contrary to the first game, the Warriors were trailing by a decent margin all the way until the fourth quarter. The Grizzlies had control for most of the game until the fourth quarter when the Warriors, in the final minutes of the game, evened the score. They were down by 9 with 2 minutes and 48 seconds left, but still managed to tie the game. On the final possession in the fourth quarter, Draymond Green took an ill-advised floater, and that shot missing caused the game to go into overtime. In overtime, it was a shootout between both teams. The Grizzlies and the Warriors were both hitting threes left and right. Up by 3, Ja Morant hit a clutch floater to put the Grizzlies up by 5 with only a couple seconds left. A nasty Jordan Poole 3 gave Warriors fans some hope. However, that hope was quickly demolished after a Desmond Bane poster, which clinched the game for the Grizzlies, moving them on into the playoffs and sending the Warriors home. The Warriors ended the regular season by winning 6 straight games. However, they lost 2 straight games in the play-in tournament, which ruined their playoff chances. For the second year straight, the once Dynasty Warriors would miss out on the playoffs. The 2021 offseason came around, and the Warriors made some additions as well as subtractions. On July 29, 2021, in the 2021 NBA Draft, the Warriors used their 7th pick to select Jonathan Kuminga, and with their 14th pick would select Moses Moody, both players who would see a lot of bench this season, but could shine in future years. Gary Payton II re-signed with the Warriors, and they're hoping that he'd have a bigger role this year. They also got some more depth with free agency additions. On August 6th, they got Otto Porter Jr. from the Magic, and 4 days later, on August 10th, they managed to bring back veteran player, Warriors legend Andre Iguodala from the Miami Heat. Even though he wouldn't play as much as he used to in previous years, that veteran intellect could prove a lot for this Warriors team. With all of these additions, of course there had to be some subtractions from the Warriors, and Kent Bazemore and Kelly Oubre Jr. were both lost in free agency. But overall, in this offseason, the Warriors were focusing on making depth around their star players, and Klay Thompson should be able to return this year as long as he does not get another freak injury. The Warriors started off the season with a starting lineup of Stephen Curry, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and Kevon Looney. And they would be dominant throughout their first 20 games, finishing 18-2 after their first 20 games. They were doing this without their second best player, who would return later on in the season. If they can win to this level, the addition of Klay Thompson really could make them finals bound. The Warriors would continue their hot start, and on December 14th against the New York Knicks, Stephen Curry broke the all-time three-point record, adding another gem to this season. On January 9th, the long-awaited return of Klay Thompson has come, as now they re-add his talents to the roster, making this team truly a threat for anybody who comes their way. It would take a little bit of time for Klay Thompson to fit into the lineup. He was a little bit rusty at first. However, as time went by, he started to find his groove once again with the Warriors. Entering the All-Star break, the Warriors had a 42-17 record. And the reason they have such a good record is because not only was Curry playing at a really high level, but every single player on the roster was stepping up. Jordan Poole was the most improved player candidate, as he was averaging 18.5 points per game this season, shooting incredibly and even being given the name of the third Splash Brother. Andrew Wiggins also helped with his 17 points per game, and with his great all-around play, he was selected as an All-Star. Kevon Looney played all 82 games this season, only averaging 6 points but holding down the rebounds and being a very consistent player for the team. With all these players stepping up, surrounding Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, the Warriors look to have a real chance to make the finals once again. However, after the All-Star break, the Warriors had a losing record, finishing the rest of the games 11-12. On March 17th against the Boston Celtics, he receives an injury that would sideline him for the rest of the regular season, as well as limit him during the playoffs. This is a huge blow for the Warriors, obviously, and fans were given deja vu of all of the injuries they had to experience in previous seasons, which kept them out of the playoffs. That being said, the Warriors finished 53-29 as the third seed in the Western Conference. But despite their higher seeding, they would need to enter the playoffs with an injured Steph Curry. The Warriors' first round matchup would be against the 6th seed Denver Nuggets, led by two-time straight MVP Nikola Jokic. Curry would be playing injury minutes, coming off of the bench and not starting for the first couple games of the series. The Warriors had control for the entirety of Game 1, winning the game 123-107. In Game 2, the Warriors had a slow first half, but with a scoring run near the end of the second quarter, along with a 44-point third quarter, the Warriors had control for the remainder of the game, taking a 2-0 series lead by winning 126-106. In Game 3 in Denver, the Warriors had a solid lead throughout most of the first half. However, the Nuggets came back and made it a back-and-forth fourth quarter. Both teams were trading shots, but it wasn't until Stephen Curry's silencing layup and Draymond Green's clutch defensive strip that won the Warriors Game 3, 118-113, giving them the 3-0 series lead. In Game 4, the Warriors were trying to complete the sweep, however they were down by double digits majority of the game. It wasn't until the fourth quarter where, after miraculous plays by the Warriors, they tied the game up, including even getting the lead with a few minutes left to go. However, some clutch shots by the Nuggets near the end of the game defeated the Warriors, winning 126-121, avoiding the sweep. Game 5 was evenly fought throughout the entire game. It always was a close game between the two teams. However, in the final minute, Curry put the Nuggets to sleep, making a layup that would make the game a two-possession game with only 20 seconds left, and the Nuggets couldn't respond. The Warriors won the game 102-98, winning in 5 games, completing the gentleman's sweep. This was the first time the Warriors have won a series in the playoffs since 2019. This very convincing win confirmed the Warriors as one of the top dogs in the league, as they could win in 5 against an MVP-led team without their star player Curry even starting. This would match them up against the Memphis Grizzlies, the number 2 seed, in the conference semifinals. Game 1 was a very back-and-forth game between both teams. Despite Draymond Green being ejected in the second quarter, the Warriors still evenly matched the Grizzlies. In the final minute of the game, Klay Thompson hit a clutch three-pointer to put the Warriors up by 1, and the Warriors finished the game by stopping Ja Morant on an attempted layup. So the Warriors held on to win Game 1, 117-116. Game 2 of the series was very similar. This time the Warriors had Draymond Green to play the full game, and just like the first game, it was an evenly fought, entertaining battle all the way up until the final minutes when Ja Morant hit a floater to put the Grizzlies up by 3. The Warriors couldn't respond, so the Grizzlies hung on to the lead, evening the series by winning 106-101. It is worth noting, though, that the Warriors would lose Gary Payton with a fractured elbow due to a cheap shot by Dillon Brooks, and he'd have to miss multiple weeks due to his injury. Game 3 of the series was completely different. The Grizzlies got off to a quick first quarter start, but then the Warriors quickly regained control of the game, consistently having a lead and in the second half blowing away, winning in dominant and comfortable fashion, 142-112, which gave the Warriors the 2-1 lead in the series. After Game 3, a major update revealed that Ja Morant had a bone bruise, and that would sideline him for the remainder of the NBA playoffs, giving the Warriors a huge break and a large upper hand in this series. Game 4 was already the third really tight matchup between these two teams. The Grizzlies surprisingly hung on without star player Ja Morant. It made it a close game within the final minutes, but Draymond Green had a clutch defensive block on Jaren Jackson's three-pointer that would ice the game, giving the Warriors a 3-1 series lead by winning 101-98. With a 3-1 series lead against the Grizzlies, and the Grizzlies being without Ja, this series was most definitely going to be won by the Warriors. So I'll quickly summarize the next two games. In Game 5, the Grizzlies got a random blowout win against the Warriors without Ja, completely smothering the Warriors in a surprise Game 5 victory 134-95, bringing the series to a Game 6. In Game 6, in another close game, the Warriors pulled away in the final minutes of the fourth quarter due to insane rebounding by Kevon Looney and the wet shooting we all know from Curry and Klay. But the Grizzlies did give a valiant effort without their star player, and Dillon Brooks had an incredible Game 6 to keep the Grizzlies in it. However, despite all of that, it wasn't enough, and the Warriors, with a surprise to no one, won Game 6, winning the series. This win put them into the Western Conference Finals against the Dallas Mavericks, led by young superstar Luka Doncic. The Warriors had a very dominant start in the Western Conference Finals, having the upper hand against the Mavericks for the entirety of Game 1 and blowing away in the second half, blowing out the Mavericks, winning 112-87, gaining themselves the 1-0 series lead. In Game 2, the Mavericks put up a much better fight by having control of most of the first three quarters by double digits. However, at the end of the third quarter and beginning of the fourth, the Warriors regained the lead, and then they blew away at the end of the fourth quarter, winning Game 2 as well of the series, having a comfortable 2-0 lead against the Mavericks early on. In the NBA, no team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in the series, so the Mavericks would have to win this game if they want any chance in beating these Warriors. The first half was very evenly battled between the two teams. However, the Warriors had a consistent lead in the second half and ruined the Mavericks' hopes and dreams by winning this game as well, getting a 3-0 series lead and pretty much winning the series. There also was an Andrew Wiggins poster on Luka Doncic for bonus points. In the final two games of the series, the Mavericks got the classic down 3-0 win Game 4 win by barely edging out the Warriors in Game 4. But the Warriors did complete the gentleman's sweep, winning Game 5 120-110, moving on to the finals. Yes, the Warriors have propelled themselves back on to the finals podium, back where they were in 2019, 18, 17, 16, and 15. They have returned. The Dynasty could make a comeback, but the job is not finished yet. They have the Eastern Conference champion Boston Celtics, the best defensive team as well as one of the best offensive teams as well. This matchup was bound to happen based on how much these two teams dominated their conferences. So who would win the 2022 NBA Finals? Would the up-and-coming Celtics get their first ring, led by Tatum and Brown, or would the Warriors return to success, reviving the once-dying dynasty? In a back-and-forth Game 1, the Warriors had a good lead heading into the fourth quarter. However, the Celtics started hitting every single three they threw up, gaining the lead in the fourth quarter, completely outscoring the Warriors, and punching first in this series, winning Game 1, 120-108. Game 2 had a near identical start to Game 1, being back and forth in the first half. However, the Warriors once again had a good lead in the third quarter, but this time they ran away with the game instead of blowing the lead. The game was truly over when Jordan Poole hit his nasty half-court step back, and the Warriors would go on to win Game 2, evening the series 107-88. In Game 3, the Celtics had control for the majority of the game, except one portion where the Warriors managed to get the lead back. But as soon as that happened, the Celtics reclaimed the lead and held on until the end of the game, winning Game 3 with a 2-1 series lead, 116-100. Would the Warriors be knocked out of 2 finals in a row? In Game 4, it was a close game throughout the entirety of the 4 quarters. However, in the final minutes of the 4th quarter, Stephen Curry hit everything he was throwing up, dropping a 43-point bomb, helping the Warriors to once again even the series and even the playing field, winning 107-97 in Boston, reclaiming home court for the rest of the series. Game 5, the Warriors once again put their foot down, controlling most of the game besides a small portion in the 3rd quarter where the Celtics regained the lead. But as soon as the Celtics did that, the Warriors quickly grabbed the lead back and hung on to it, securing the win and getting their first lead of the finals, winning the game 104-94. The Warriors are just one win away from being back as champions like they used to be. Could they finish the job? The answer? Yes, they could. In Game 6, the Warriors went on an early 21-0 run, the largest run in the finals in over 50 years. They held on to this lead created by the run the entirety of the game, never letting the Celtics even get close to them. And they finished the game as champions, winning 103-90. The Warriors revived their dynasty, earning their 4th ring in 8 years. Curry finally got the monkey off his back and won his first Finals MVP award, truly leading this team after incredible performance through the playoffs. And the Warriors are once again NBA champions. Thank you everybody so much for watching this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. It really helps with the channel. As a Celtics fan, this video was funny to make, obviously, to recount all the games that the Warriors beat the Celtics. It was a little bit sad, but at the same time, I'm a little bit over the finals, so we're on to next year. I definitely think the Celtics are going to be back to the finals. They're just a really young team, as well as the addition of Malcolm Brogdon should help. I definitely could see another Celtics-Warriors rematch, and actually, I would love to see a rematch between these two teams. But yeah, that being said, hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day, and I'll see you next time on Heaps.